Hello, everyone, and howdy, Bryn. How are you today?
Dan, I'm good. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. So,
Wonderful. Looking forward to our conversation today. For those of you that are listening, you may hear a little, sounds like a wind tunnel or maybe the ocean, and our tech isn't working exactly right, but just bear with us because I think the value of the content will supersede the value or the quality of our audio.
yes, agreed. So, today we're going to be talking about a phrase we hear all the time, especially in sales, which is your network is your net worth. So, we'll be talking about this in the context of LinkedIn. And one way to think about it is like a big, huge networking room. And just like networking meetings in person, when you connect with other people with purpose and when you get introduced to other people, it enables you to stop cold calling and start building a network of actual partners and great relationships. So, Bryn, I know this is something that you love. So, let's start talking about how sales professionals can use their LinkedIn network to actually build their pipeline.
Yeah, I love this. Thank you so much for bringing this in as a topic because I think it's a powerful one, right? And so many people are treating LinkedIn like with as it's cold calling. I'm going to connect with 25 new people every single day, and their plan is based on volume of connections. But here's what happens. You end up with hundreds if not thousands of connections of people you never had a conversation with. They don't know the value that you bring. They don't understand how they can network with you because it's like you walked into that networking room with a whole bunch of business cards and walked around, handed them out, and collected theirs without a conversation. So I'm excited to talk about like how to purposefully build a network that's of value. When we say your network is your net worth, if you are connecting with um, 100 pennies a day, you're never going to get rich. But if
Yes.
you're connecting right with some real high value people, lower volume but a higher rate of qualification of, and I don't mean like, oh, we're going to go after people that are rich. I mean we're going after the right people that meet the criteria, whether it's a prospect, a referral partner, someone in the industry that might bring insights. There's a lot of opportunities to connect with people that bring value to your network. And the last thing I'm going to say before we get into kind of your conversation prompts here is, so by I don't want it to sound judgy in a way. I'm very aware that this can sound like, oh, well, you're being snobby in who you'll connect with or who you're not going to connect with, or you're really you're being very, very particular in a way that you're leaving people out. But what I will say is if you don't add them to your network because they don't align, doesn't mean they're not a person of value.
Right.
We're not right to someone else. They could be the most incredible networking partner in the world. They could be a wonderful vendor to their clients. But if it doesn't align with your mission, the way you go to market, it's not necessarily someone that's going to bring value to your network or that you can bring value to theirs.
Two. Yep. Yep.
So I just want to say, just because we're saying connect with these people, not with these people, it's not a value judgment on who they are. It's just an alignment judgment on who's going to be best in your business journey.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And one of the expressions I've heard is that business happens at the speed of relationships.
Oh, I love that line. I don't know if I've heard that.
Yeah, I cannot remember who I heard it from, but so I can't take credit. But everything starts with building good relationships. And one of the things you just kind of alluded to was the idea of quality versus quantity. Because we've all been to the in-person network meetings where there's at least one person going around handing their business cards out willy-nilly, um, and that's all they're doing. And so there's no quality there. And I know we agree that, we'd both rather have a network of 500 select people that as soon as they hear our voice or they see an email from us, they say, "Hey, Bren, good to hear from you," as opposed to 10,000 people that don't return emails.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I love that, and I totally agree. And in the beginning of LinkedIn, I did it all wrong. I connected with a ton of people, and so now my world is kind of going through and taking inventory of all these connections and reaching out to people to start conversations from 15 years ago because I did it wrong. And so what I'm saying is don't do it wrong, learn from our mistakes, my mistakes, and have more purposeful connections. And moving forward, the last 7 or 8 years, I am very purposeful in who I connect with. But I do have thousands of connections that were random. And so I know that it's not the right way to go. So I love that you said that. And one of the things is purposeful, 500 connections who you've had some kind of conversation with, really important. When you curate your network to those right folks, kind of keep in mind, like, yeah, who are your prospects? That matters, but make sure you're connected to all your current clients. You not just your champion inside the client, but if you've worked with 8 or 10 different people inside of that organization, make sure you're connecting with all of those folks. Industry peers, right? These may be people that you may go, oh, they're a competitor. And we get a lot. Should I connect with my competitor? I think we should. I think high tide rises all boats. In our world, some of the best quality information we get are from our competitors. I'm putting that in air quotes because I don't look at it that way. But like Richard Vanderbloom on the algorithm, no one knows it better. I'm never going to pretend that I do. So if someone says, hey, I need training on the algorithm, I'm going to refer to Richard. Kevin D. Turner, it keeps us up to date on every new change in LinkedIn. So if someone comes up to us and says, I want training on all the new stuff on LinkedIn, we're doing our traditional training on referrals, on networking, on content. But if you want the newest stuff, you go to Kevin, right? So there have been throughout the years many people that we've referred business to, and business has been referred to us. In our membership, we have a LinkedIn trainer who comes in at least once a week, and she's training. She's like, oh, I'm going to go train this to my clients. Great, Janice, have fun. We love you. We know you're awesome. And again, high tide rises all boats. So I do think industry peers, even if you feel like they're competition, can make us all better, right? And think about who are the strategic alliance partners. What other vendors are your clients buying from? Like, so if you are a financial planner, I want to meet my client's CPA, their business attorney, their state attorney, their tax attorney, all the people that surround our clients, we should be connecting to. And we should have relationships with those parallel vendors that we can refer into. So here's a perfect example. My daughter is an interior designer. She has an organizer, she has a mover, she has a mortgage person, right? And so when she has a new client that needs some of these things, she's already vetted these partners and she's referring them, right? So you want to make sure you're connecting with those people on LinkedIn, because now she has this mover that she's connected to, and he says, oh, you're connected to 12 real estate people I'd love to meet. Great. Hannah can now make introductions to the mover, to those real estate people. So building those trusted advisors around what you do is a really powerful way to build a purposeful network. That was a very long
Yep.
answer to your question, my friend.
But so true. That is something that most people do not do, though. So it is extremely helpful. Um, One of the other things that we talk about a lot are warm introductions as opposed to cold calls.
Yeah.
And we were talking about in-person networking meetings, and you think about it, if you've ever been to an in-person networking meeting, how would you prefer to meet someone there that you've never met before? Walk up to them or interrupt the conversation that they're involved with and stick your hand out and say, "Hi, I'm Stan," or say Bryn is there and she knows this person. Would you rather have her walk over to the person with you and say, "Hey, John, this is Stan. I thought you guys should meet." And you can do the same thing on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that is so true. If someone walks Stan over to me so Bob Woods walks Stan over to me at a networking meeting and says, "You've got to meet Stan." 100% I'm putting energy into learning about Stan because our shared connection made that introduction. That's exactly how it works on LinkedIn too, right? We can search and filter our connections, run the names by them, and they can make some strategic introductions. Ultimately, if they go through the list and say, "Oh yeah, Stan will take your call, Bob will take your call," you're going to have a very high percentage of people that you're going to have conversations with simply because you share a trusted connection. So I love that. I love that. All right, what's next
Yep,
on our list, my
that,
friend?
that is so true. And next, and it's funny how this all kind of weaves together. We talk about giving before asking. And all of us can relate to accepting someone's LinkedIn invitation, and the welcome quote unquote message that we get is a message about what they sell,
Right.
and how they can help you do this, that, and the other. So giving first, it's kind of like a bank. You have to make deposits before you can make withdrawals. It's funny how kids sometimes don't understand that. On a side note, you need money, just go to the ATM. Well, you have to put money in first. And the same is true with relationships. And so, one of the things that you mentioned, Bryn, is when we talk about, okay, how do you add value to people? It can be sharing content. But one of the things you mentioned is a way of adding value when you can introduce them to someone else that can help them. So, any additional thoughts just on how we give first before
I
asking?
love the analogy that you bring in that you've got to make deposits before withdrawals. I know I'm going off on a tangent for a second, but my stepson, who's now close to 40, when he was young, before I even knew him, it's just a story that's been told over the years. Like he was probably 4 or 5, and they were in downtown Philadelphia, and for the first time he sees a homeless person, and he looked at his dad and said, "Why are they homeless?" And he says, "Well, they just don't have money to get what they need." And he goes, "Why don't you just give them an ATM card?" So that was the
Love it.
story. So yes, that was, and we did not discuss this in advance. That was just an organic conversation that came out of this. But so that is the key. You make the introductions first. You bring the value first, and then people are very excited to uh, uh, reciprocate. When the time is right. So I love that. You nailed it. I don't think I have much more to say other than bring value first, be the first to make the introductions.
Yep. So, I know we've been talking about both in person and LinkedIn. I guess though this applies to both, which is moving beyond the first either physical or digital handshake. In other words, what happens after you connect with someone, and how do you turn that into the start of a relationship? Um, so that's a question that comes up all the time. And when people are just starting to learn about LinkedIn and we talk about how to use it, I always tell them, listen, your goal is to use LinkedIn to find the right people, start relationships, but eventually move the conversation off of LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
to email, phone call, in person, Zoom. So your goal isn't to stay on LinkedIn, but to move it to the next step. So your thoughts just on, okay, how do we move beyond the first initial digital
Yeah,
handshake?
that's such a powerful question or thought that you bring up, because it is a question we hear all the time. All right, I commented. Okay, they connected. What do I do now? And I think the first thing you have to do is take inventory of the value you can bring to their challenges. Like sit down and say, okay, here are all the challenges. Here are all the things that matter to my prospects or my referral partners. So, maybe, I'm going to randomly say we have someone who sells CRM, and they're going to go out to salespeople and to the sales leaders, and all those sales leaders are going to know exactly what a CRM does. They probably have one. And instead of saying, hey, I'd love to tell you about our CRM, you have an ebook that's how to get an ROI from your CRM, whatever it is, right? Five ways to get your sales reps to adopt your CRM the right way, right? So now you are bringing value, and the value needs to be agnostic to your tool. It needs to be value, but what you bring needs to create a reframing of the way they look at the CRM they're using today. They need to say, wow, that's why I'm not getting adoption. I understand that, 7 steps to adding a new client is going to get in the way of my reps using it. I understand, right? So when you look at the value you bring that fixes the challenge that they have in their current state, and you create content around reframing the way they're looking at the way they're doing things today, you will earn the right to get the conversation.
Yep. Good deal.
So I love that. I think we had one more that we were going to touch on.
Yep, and you kind of touched on it when you mentioned return on investment, or ROI, because people say, okay, well, I'm building these relationships. I understand business is all about relationships, but how do I start to measure the return on investment that I'm getting from spending time developing the relationships, adding value to other people? So that one, since everything starts with a relationship, and Bryn, you did mention CRM, that's one way of tracking. But most of us find that our biggest deals are our longest term business relationships, people who come back. It all started with a good relationship.
I'm going to let you end it there, because there is not a better way to mic drop. That's it. That's really what it is. It's not about building a network of names. It's a network of relationships. So, Stan, this was awesome. Thank you for running today and kind of getting us on this track that really your network is your net worth. That's that old traditional saying that still rings true. And so my final words around this is, just go through your network, whether you do a search on your first degree connections or you export your connections and look through them, and really take a look at who in my network today should I be having conversations with and building deeper relationships.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah. So as we close this out, guys, we've got lots of events happening. If you go to socialsaleslink.com/events, We have a few that are happening this month that I'm excited about. If you go to socialsaleslink.com/podcast, no, that's not where I want you to go, /ebooks, you're going to see all of our new ebooks that are there. Our podcast link, we are updating our podcasts in our website now. They stopped syncing, but you can go to Apple or Spotify or anywhere else and absolutely get access to our podcasts. And Stan, I'm going to bring this to a close for everyone out there. When you are out and about, don't forget to make your sales